Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. In a significant step towards affordable medical education, the National Medical Commission has notified its first major regulation. Titled as Minimum Requirements for Annual MBBS Admissions Regulations 2020, the notification issued replaces the minimum standard requirements for medical colleges 1999 of the erstwhile Medical Council of India. The new regulation shall be applicable to all new medical colleges proposing to be established and to the established medical colleges proposing to increase their annual MBBS intake from the academic year 2021-22. During the transitory period, the established medical colleges will be governed by the relevant regulations existing prior to the current notification. The new standards have been defined keeping the functional requirements of the institutions. These allow optimization and flexibility in utilizing available resources and harnessing modern educational technology tools to facilitate moving towards quality education even when resources are relatively scarce. Well, in this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze the medical education reforms. Joining me on the program today are Dr. Naresh Trehan, Chairman and Managing Director, Medanta; Professor Mahesh Verma, Member, National Medical Commission and Vice Chancellor, GGSIP University, Delhi; and Professor Rajendra Pandey, Vice Chancellor, West Bengal University. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of Big Picture. All right, Professor Verma, I'd like to begin the program with you first. Let's try and analyze and understand what are the new or key changes as far as the new notification is concerned.
So these regulations titled Minimum Requirement for Annual MBBS Admission 2020 has just been released, and basically these will come into force from the next academic session. And these regulations have basically brought in a lot of specialization in terms of infrastructure, in terms of faculty requirement, bed requirement, and also has promoted small group teaching, early clinical exposure, and competency-based education. Basically, these regulations broadly says that, like if you want to set up a medical college, you don't need even 5 acres of land, because earlier the requirement for setting up a medical education was 25 acres of land, and in metros it was 5 acres. And these new regulations says that you can even start without 5 acres of land. Secondly, the earlier regulation required that we have a fully functional hospital, 500 bedded, and there was no clarification regarding when this hospital is functioning. As per the new regulation, it's only, this hospital need to be functioning only for just about 2 years. And also, there are many other things in the regulation promoting e-learning, promoting digitally linked resources which are all shared amongst the medical colleges, skill lab, and all the medical education technology, which is very integral part of medical education today, is made mandatory. Departments like physical medicine, rehabilitation, and emergency medicine.
Okay, let me take the points that you're making forward with the other panelists now. So, Dr. Trehan, let me bring you into the picture. So, how will the changes really help in shaping a better healthcare system? Of course, we need medical education reforms. Now, how will this benefit the healthcare system as a whole?
So, these reforms have been long due in coming, and they're very progressive. It actually is a very positive step taken forward in the interest of healthcare India. The point is that we've year after year we have always felt that we are extremely short of doctors who are trained to a level where not only their education is how to learn about giving care to the patient, which was just medical, but also be comprehensive in their ability to deal with the disease pattern, be emotionally connected, and be very sort of courteous, understand how to talk to families, what is the role of traditional medicine in India. So, this opens up a huge new vista for us who want to create medical colleges. Personally, we've been waiting for many years now for this regulation to come, which will enable us to be able to make a medical college ASAP. We will like to create a curriculum which would also open up the minds of the doctors for the future. Like you know about the program of Atmanirbhar. Atmanirbhar means that doctors will also have to start thinking of not just blindly saying, let me get technology from somewhere else, but we should be able to help our own scientists, our own laboratories, our own industry to develop new technology, to become self-sufficient so that we are not dependent on people importing expensive equipments from overseas. So there are many, many aspects with this new progressive thinking which the National Medical Commission has put in place, enabling the best of people, best of hospitals, which are already existing, which have a good faculty, very good faculty, good clinical material. Their services can be used for training doctors to a level which will be much higher than what we have been able to do when there were hospitals made in some rural area because of the requirement of the land. Some hospital had to be made where pre-patients were admitted, the clinical material was limited, and one of the biggest thing it has done is taken away the distinction between the life of a poor man and the life of a well-to-do person. So the point is, and this is our experience, that we find that if the patients who are quote unquote private patients, they're as happy to participate in development and teaching of doctors as a poor patient is. It is unconstitutional to say before, it used to be, that you can only teach on poor patients. That means you're making a distinction. That is not constitutionally correct. So I give my example. I trained in America in New York University Medical Center. It was a private hospital. It was a private medical college along with it. And all the patients who were there were well-to-do. And we all learnt our training, our skills on those patients, and they were very happy. And ultimately, the quality of medicine you give is much better when you have a medical college as part of your hospital. The patients get taken care of better, the students learn, and the country actually benefits from it. So I am very happy. I welcome this move, and I think that this will change the landscape of the quality of care that doctors give, and also the quantity that we will have over the years. We should be able to make up the shortage, which has been chronic.
Okay. All right. So, Professor Pandey, let me bring you into the picture now. So, we've heard from Dr. Trehan and from, Professor Verma about what the key changes are and how it will help the healthcare system as a whole. How does it impact the medical colleges?
Impacting a medical college which are already existing, they would think it in a different manner, because their logistic will be more than what was required earlier, may not be adequate, but now with the present changes, they are in a better position to train more students than what they are presently doing. So they can ask for an increase in the number of seats with their existing facility. That is the first thing that can do, and the number of students can increase. What other thing that can be done with the similar application to government institution, the number of seats can be increased there as well, and the government seats in the private institutions can be released, available to the private candidates, and that will reduce the cost of medical education in private colleges with the enhanced seat by another 60 to 70%, and that will facilitate, with the seats should be available, the students who are going outside India for acquiring medical education need not go. So probably they will be trained in an environment which will be culturally and linguistically more conducive, and their training will also be better. So the existing colleges can go in that way, and the new colleges which people may get interested because of the allowance for the consortium, a housing body, and unutilized engineering colleges, hospitals which are running, all they can come together and can start a new medical college. And as a result, the cost of building infrastructure would be low, and that will reduce the cost of training each student for 4.5 year period. And this will enhance the chances of getting interest on their investment. If the
Right.
returns are better, the more people will come to start new colleges, and we'll be able to train a larger number of doctor practitioners in the shortest possible time. And that is what India needs. It should move fast and achieve it as fast as possible, maybe in the next 10 years.
Absolutely. All right. So since we are here, then let me take this particular aspect forward with you, Professor Verma. Since we're talking about increasing the number of medical colleges, since we're talking about increasing the number of doctors, getting into the rural hinterland, and all these other aspects, the pandemic has taught us that e-learning is a possibility. It has taught us that we can really go forward if we link everything digitally. So is that something that we need to focus on? Is that something that the new regulations also speak about?
E-learning is not only important in medical education. I think it is, it is needed all over now, as we have learned in the recent months how we have quickly transformed from a conventional mode of, giving education to something which is more virtual, more e-mode. And I think it is very much needed in medical education also, because, the emphasis these days is early clinical exposure. So, the school of the thought is that we should be spending more time in a hospital setup with patients and clinical endeavors, a lot of didactics, which can be had, could be through a e-learning mode. So the new regulation very much is accommodating it, and not only that, it has gone even a step forward, that it has also said that all the digital resources which is present in various medical colleges can be linked together, so that we share the resources and we learn from each other. So I think, and also if there could be a repository of all these resources, then the students and the UG and postgraduate students can always access these resources at their free will. So I think these regulations are absolutely contemporary and very futuristic, keeping in mind the need for the welfare of our students.
Absolutely. All right. So, Dr. Trehan, as far as hospitals are concerned, what are they looking for in young professionals or young medical practitioners, and how can we improve the education system at the moment to ensure that they are better prepared when they finally start their jobs?
So the attributes of a good doctor and their student days and their training, one, of course, is knowledge. What is the quality of the knowledge that they are acquiring, and the mode in which they are acquiring? So today, I think Professor has already said that there is a lot of learning, didactic learning, which can be done offline. And a lot of this is going to prepare you when you get into digital space. It will also prepare you to understand that medicine is going to be practiced in a different way post-COVID. We were always thinking about the fact that to link and to be a force multiplier for experts, that you needed the digital connectivity to the last mile in India. Now what the COVID has done is it has compressed that very quickly, and a lot of new activity happened on digital space, so that, like we are doing right now, that we have become used to it and we know what the potential of it is. So we estimate that up to 50% of the patients will not have to travel to a hospital. Their diagnostics, their initial treatment can be done on telemedicine, whether it is video or whether it is telecommunication. So the point is, you will save the patients all that trouble of traveling, not only themselves with their family, to far off hospitals to just get opinion of a doctor. Now, what are we doing today? We are seeing from Vedanta, we used to have about 100 video conferences a day. Today, we have upwards of 600 a day. So these patients are getting their preliminary advice, diagnosis online. And so they only come here if they need treatment or diagnostics which are available out here so that they may travel for the ultimate need which may arise, so that it's not that they have to visit again and again, once to see the doctor, then to get the diagnosis, then to get the tests, and then to get the procedure. So this can all be done. Huge amounts of saving of time and money, big relief to the patients. And I think that today's doctors, what this new regulation for medical schools has done, that the students that come out, the graduates will be totally tech savvy. They will be able to communicate very easily. And parallelly, what is good is the children who are growing up in even villages are becoming tech savvy. You look at them, the way they handle the iPads and all that, it is heartening to know that this kind of progress is happening in India, and that we, over a period of time, will see the real transformation of India into the digital space. And also the government has started the digital medical record, which is transportable across the country. That will also help. So there are many, many good moves that are already in place, and this regulation that came from the commission has put an icing on that cake. And I said, as we are feeling on the panel, that is very positive. It will help to solve the problem of healthcare in India in a short period of time.
Absolutely. All right. So, Professor Pandey, since we are talking about these particular aspects, let's talk about skilling and how important it is to learn new skills and learn as you go, as we get used to a new normal. That is one. Secondly, what about the faculty and and teacher training, and also ensuring that they are better prepared to impart the new knowledge on the students?
If we come to the student part first, it will be easier for them to adapt, because a lot of training earlier used to take actually on patients before they can have enough experience to do successfully and without or with least complications. But now we have mannequin and other materials available where digitally on different platforms they can be trained adequately before actually they perform on patients. So this is always a welcome move. We are already late in implementing in India. It should be there, and it should start with, say, training in anatomy and come right up to training in intubation, making and vascular access. For each and every one thing, there should be a virtual training on mannequin and then allowing them on patients. So it will be easier for them to adapt and accept. But coming to the second part, that making your faculties accept whatever is coming in digital platform in a shorter span of time may be challenging. All of them would not be prepared to accept it so easily. So considering the time spent, they should be given space and an understanding to adapt to it. But to begin with, there are 4 things which the teachers are involved. They are teaching. The COVID has made them accept that they will teach online, which they have already started. The second aspect is evaluating them online as and when applicable. So that will also minimize the need of externals moving from one place to another for taking the examination. That will also reduce the cost of examination. And the evaluation of practical by patients while they are a candidate is operating with the assistance of his supervisor, which is videographed and sent to the examiner. And they can see and they can come back with questions. So all things would be more realistic, where the performance would be assessed in a better manner in an expanded time frame by the evaluator. And that will be the best modality where skill would be certified to a higher level of competence. That is most welcome. Only the challenge lies in how we are going to execute it successfully with minimal complications and resistance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think those are some very valid points that you raised, and hopefully these two will be addressed in the time to come. Quick closing comments now from all my guests with the best way forward. Starting first with you, Professor Verma.
I think some of the areas which NMC is already looking at, and we have to keep it in mind. One is growth regarding number of seats in UG and PG. Second is distribution and availability of doctors all across. Third is improving quality. All our endeavors have to be focused at improving quality, because the education ultimately will only be valid, only be fine if it has a quality. The fourth thing is affordability. Today the private, especially private medical education, is quite unaffordable, and a lot of our students who somehow miss the government seats are they are deprived of medical education. So somewhere we also have to ensure that the medical education is made affordable, even in private sector. And the next thing is merit based. I think the best thing NMC is doing is having a uniform NEET examination for UG and PG, and also now planning next exam, exit exam, where so there is a standardization that everybody will be assessed at the same parameters. And I think finally, which is also a big need of the hour, is ethics. Looking at all the ethical concerns, because as the commercialization and marketing of medical education and medical care is happening, we also have to ensure that doctors, they confirm, there are regulations, and there is a transparency between a provider or a giver and a care receiver.
Right. Dr. Trehan.
So one thing, word of caution, as we move forward and all the qualities that are required in a doctor and the education system have been discussed. But the point we have to worry about is the quality of the end product, which, of course, the NMC has talked about exit exams being uniform, which will be great. But while they are in the system, the quality of the educators should also be standardized. There should be no such thing as trying to push through large numbers of students who are ill-prepared. And I think that's the biggest tragedy that can happen, is to have poor quality doctors just in this rush of producing more and more. So we have to keep a very strict eye on the quality of the doctors, their education. It's not only at the end they find that they are failing. It's like that they are not acceptable, because you have wasted 4.5 years. So I think NMC has the wherewithal. We have the digital controls now. We can actually monitor real time. And also the introduction of some of the new frontier technologies like AR, VR, all these things will have to be introduced progressively across the whole system.
Absolutely.
Like I think you raised the question, what's the difference between the current hospital medical education institutes and what will be the difference in the new ones? So it will have to be retrofitted also, because of the fact that the ultimate quality of doctor that comes out of these institutions should have certain amount of uniformity, also the portability of knowledge. And what is very good about this new digital age is that one professor can teach many, many more classes than they were able to do before. So we don't have to travel, we don't have to be physically present there. And amazingly enough, holography has taken a big leap. You can actually be virtually present physically there, not only on a video screen. It's like almost holography, and media has been using it. Is an amazing science. You feel like the teacher's right there in front of you. So I think all these things will come in very handy. Overall, India looks like a better future today with these regulations than till just recently. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Professor Pandey, please close the show for us with your concluding remark.
If I'm allowed to think loudly, I would envision that if India is going to be an aspirationally leading the world economy, then they have to spare the fund for things which they are presently doing. I see where the medical education, all transportation in all forms, power, generation, supply, they will all go into private hands. They cannot remain in government hand, maybe 10 or 15 years from now. Keeping that in mind, the regulation and restrictions have to move away. The facilitation, promotion has to come in. And people have to find that accreditation with rating is what will attract the student. The promoters they themselves have to adhere to the qualities, improvising it so that the students will be attracted to them. But the focus should be on reducing the cost of education, medical education, so that a meritorious student will not fall shy of jumping into it by taking a bank loan.
Sure.
Probably NMC has taken this right step in that direction, and maybe it will crystallize within few years where each and every student who just aspires to be a doctor can go to a bank and get enough loan to complete their education even in a private institution.
Absolutely. All right. On that note, then I'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.